Hello. This video that we're going to do today is going to be on how to make a slit in your garment. Predominantly this is about doing it in a skirt, but you can see this could be on a jacket. I mean, it could be on a sleeve or just a decorative way to add some fullness or opening to a garment wherever you want it. Could even be on the bottom of trousers. I'm showing you this one that's not completely finished because it needs some hand sewing, but I'm going to use it in the video with the other piece. So this is the how it would look on the outside before it's all hemmed. Okay, I'm going to show you the other pattern, the other pieces. I'll move this over. There's two pieces. Basically, this would be if you could envision this as a skirt, back of the skirt. You're going to want to always do when you have this kind of turn under is to put some interfacing. Depending on your fabric, you'll do lightweight or medium, whatever. This is a wool, double face wool cashmere, and I just put a weft interfacing. This is pretty simple to do. It's all really in making sure your pattern is correct, and then from there, it's not much sewing. I put a dot here. I went down about an inch from my top of my facing. This is really a facing for your slit, and then into my 1/2 inch seam allowance. You can go a little further if you want. Don't really need to though. So that's all indicated on your pattern anyway when you get started. And I'm just going to pin up the side seams. So I'm going to start, I always do these things from it actually could do it from the top down. You always want to do them in the same direction if you're doing two of them on a garment. So I'm going to go from the top and I'm going to end here and backstitch at my dot at my 1/2 inch seam allowance. I'm just using red thread. I always use red thread so you can see it well, but obviously you would have matching thread to your garment. And you definitely want to backstitch here because this is where your slit will be opening, like if you're walking, and you'll be adding some stress to that area. So just when you get there, backstitch. And then the next step would be, and that's why I kept this one, I'm going to open this one, we'll have two at a time. The next step here would be to bust the seam open and press it open, okay? But this is not that easy to do with my hands, so I don't want to keep getting up and down to the other room for the ironing board, but it would look like this, right? And all this would fold back. So that's, I'm going to leave this at, oh, well actually the next step would have been to turn up your hem, which I think I had about 2 inches there, because then this folds over. Right, so that would be actually your next step, and then you would press everything and pin it in place and press it. So I'm going to move from that back over to here, so you can just see where you're at. Before you do any of this, you would decide on what kind of edge finish you'd have. You'd have either a serging or a binding, whatever it is you're going to do. You would want to do that before you start sewing it together on this part, not up here, just down in here. So I didn't do that, but it would be either binding or probably binding on this fabric, okay? So the next thing you'd want to do is fold these. I'm going to sew on this side and show you the folding technique on this side. So I folded up on my seam allowance, which should have been thread traced and marked when you're doing your real garment, and then you would fold this first, then fold over on your fold line for your slit, and I want you to move it up just a tiny bit, like 1/8 of an inch or less, like this, because you don't want the edge being bulky on the outside. And then you can trim away any little bit of excess underneath that might want to peek out because of the angle. Then pin it back in place, right? So I'm going to go back over to this one. And you basically want to blind stitch these down. Depending on your fabric would be dependent on the stitch you choose. So I'm just going to go ahead, because I have this heavy fabric. This would probably be better even on a coat, this weight fabric. I'm going to do the flat catch stitch. So I'll do a little bit of it. And let me get the first stitch started and then I'll explain it. So as you can see, it's got a little bit, I don't know if you can see in this video, the little bit of crisscross over here. This gives your stitch some flexibility. So I'm going to move my thread to the right, put my needle under, so that the thread is laying over the needle, and the needle is parallel to the edge of the hem. And then I'm going to bring it back over. It's like a little bird's foot, you know, that little foot they make. I'm going to put this needle into the fabric underneath and go straight across into the fabric on the top. And you're going to make another one. Oops. I'll do one more. So my thread's to the right. My needle is just going a little bit under there. You're just catching a little bit of fabric. You're not going through the outside fabric. And then bring it down. And catch. And that's pretty much, it's called the flat catch stitch. You see it has some movement. You want to have that on the bottom of a pair of pants or a skirt so that as your fabric's moving, it doesn't pop the stitch. And then you shouldn't see anything on the outside. So I would go ahead and do this up to here, and then go and you would be finishing the rest of your hems like that. Simple, that's it.